Hi, welcome to A Slice of Shakespeare. The reason I'm calling it A Slice of Shakespeare is that every episode there's going to be a different slice of something yummy. In this case, a really delicious piece of key lime pie from Chappie's Deli. They're not a sponsor or anything, I just like their food. And I was craving key lime pie. Okay, so the reason that I decided to make this series is that a lot of people hate Shakespeare, and I kind of hate that they hate Shakespeare. My wife is one of these people. But one of the reasons that she and a lot of other people hate Shakespeare is they don't really get much out of it. They either have trouble understanding what's going on because of the archaic language being used, or they have trouble understanding because the actors performing it just don't do a good job. And that's kind of sad. I believe that there are a lot of tricks and tips and techniques that I've been fortunate enough to be gifted with that might help with this. And I just want to share it because I really love Shakespeare and I really want to help people get more out of it. Now, this is going to be mainly aimed at actors, so if you're just watching this to get a better appreciation of Shakespeare, it'll help, but this is really aimed at helping performers perform Shakespeare better. So this particular video will be about the words of Shakespeare, and specifically, you have to know what the meaning of the words that are coming out of your mouth are. And I think that seems like it should be obvious, but it's not. I've seen professional productions where it was really painfully obvious that the actors didn't know what they were saying. And there are a lot of ways to deal with that, and I'm going to look at three main issues and sort of ideas that will help with that. So, number one, get a dictionary. A lot of it can be solved by just looking up the meanings of the words that you're saying. Because the way Shakespeare is written, they might be words that are in use nowadays, but they're not used regularly, or he doesn't use them in quite the way you're expecting, but it still might mean what you think it means if you just look up the dictionary definition of it. So if you have an unfamiliar word, look it up. It just might be something that you haven't run across yet. So step one, get a dictionary, and also get an etymology dictionary. Etymology is about looking into the origins of words, so knowing where the word came from can sometimes help a lot. That leads to step two, look out for Shakespeare. I really love his work, but the man made up words. A lot. Now, in Shakespeare's time, the English language was expanding just dramatically. There was a huge jump in the vocabulary because words were coming in from all over and being added to the language a lot. And a lot of other writers were also making up words. So you can't really lay it all at his feet, but if you look something up and it's one of his, you might find that looking at what's happening and how the word is used can give you more insight into what Shakespeare was getting at with that particular word at that particular point in whatever play you're working on. So that leads to step three, or idea three. Look out for words, and we're going to spend a lot of time on this. We're going to have a couple of examples. Look out for words that have changed meaning since Shakespeare's time to now. We're going to look at two words that are kind of like this from Romeo and Juliet. Not just ones that change meaning, but ones where the meaning is not what you expect. And one of them is a very famous example, and one of them is a little bit more obscure example. So with that in mind, let's dive into the text. "O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" Okay, so aside from the fact that I read that abysmally bad, but more on that later, one of the words in there is a famous example of a meaning that is not what we think it is. We hear that, "Wherefore art thou Romeo?" and we focus in on the where part of that. So we think, where is Romeo? where is he? You see, wherefore art thou, Romeo? But that's not what she's asking. That wherefore in Shakespeare's time meant why. What she's basically saying is, why are you Romeo? Why is your name Romeo? And it seems simple. This seems like really simple stuff, but it can make a big difference in your understanding as the performer. And if you understand it better as a performer, you have a much better chance of getting your audience to understand it as well. So, let's look at this a little bit more with one more example. Okay, so the scene is Act 3, Scene 1. Tybalt has just been killed by Romeo, and Benvolio is trying to explain everything that just happened to the prince of the city. And if you don't know who any of these characters are, don't worry about it. It's not going to matter for this particular example. So Benvolio goes, Tybalt here slain, whom Romeo's hand did slay. Romeo, that spoke him fair, bade him bethink how nice the quarrel was, and urged withal your high displeasure. All this uttered with gentle breath, calm look, knees humbly bowed, could not take truce with the unruly spleen of Tybalt, deaf to peace. There's more. And again, this is not exactly well read. I'm just speeding through it right now. But most of this, if you dig a little bit, is self-explanatory. Grab a dictionary, you can get a lot of it. You look at here slain. Slain is not a word we use a lot, it just means killed, though. And then you have quarrel, that's just fighting. I mean, even if you're not familiar with some of these words and the way they're used, you can still find the definition. Until you get to one odd word choice. How nice the quarrel was. Nice. Okay, weird. We know nice to be kind, sweet. You know, that's nice. That's something good. So, a kind, sweet, good fight? Not exactly. You see, nice in Shakespeare's day meant small. Some people would even call the definition silly. Small, silly. It wasn't exactly a complimentary term, and it's one of those things that it means so differently now that even if you did try to look it up, you might not find the right meaning to get what you needed out of this text. And it's one of those words that because its meaning is so different, it can really trip you up as a performer, and really, if you don't do a good job of conveying it to the audience, it can really trip them up as well. So, to recount, when you are performing Shakespeare, when you are first approaching it, you must figure out what you are saying. Learn the definitions of unfamiliar words, that's step one. Look into the origin of the words. Is it something Shakespeare made up? Is it something that means something differently? And especially if it means something differently, really learn that. That's the starting point. Learn what you are saying. Now once you learn what you're saying, we can talk about how you say it and what you're saying can actually tell you about the characters that you're playing. But that's for another episode. So I'm going to take this and finish it off, and I'm also going to pet this little lap gremlin who doesn't actually like to be picked up all that much. She's going back to purring now. She's just looking over her shoulder very disgruntled at me. And continue on. I'll see y'all next Saturday with another Slice of Shakespeare. Bye!